afternoon. Hello, welcome to our live episode of Global TV Network and Good Kuno Good People TV here and also in my page, Dr. Josephine Grace Chua Rojo. So we are live right now, and our topic for this afternoon, this Wednesday, date is January 27, 2021, is circadian LC fasting. Yes, you might have heard of circadian rhythm, circadian fasting, but this one is quite special because it is incorporating circadian rhythm and our way of life, which is low carb nutrition, and at the same time our fasting as our part of our day-to-day life. So if you are there watching, kindly drop by in the comment section and say hi to all of our friends. Good afternoon, Mar Vincent. Thank you so much for tuning in. I think I wasn't able to make an update that we were going to have a live episode right now, but I'm so glad that you are there. So, circadian fasting is actually something that is by nature part of the human existence. Circadian rhythm is our internal clock. So, with circadian fasting, we will try to look into doing our fasting method and how it can benefit us if we will make it in coincide or we will coincide this with our internal body clock or the circadian rhythm, so we can maximize that in order for us to improve with our health. We will try to see if we can improve our camera. Is it blurry? I don't know if why it's blurry. Before we start it was quite clear, but anyhow, I hope I am clear, loud and clear, so that everybody can hear. And if you can share this to our friends and families, also to other low carb and fasting groups that you belong to, keto groups, low carb group, One Keto Society, LCIF, LCF, and of course our very own Life Without Rice. So we would like to welcome all of our new members, all of our new followers. For those who don't know me yet, I am Dr. Josephine Grace Chua Rojo, also known as your Diet Doctora. So today we are going to discuss about circadian rhythm. So to start, I would like to inform you that before, since you know that I do my Facebook Live episode every Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and I usually do it 5:30 in the afternoon until 6:30 in the evening. And it's usually a quite busy day, especially that I already opened up a clinic. So right now we are here in my clinic. I just finished my online and face-to-face consultations for the day, and usually I prolong my fasting during the day until I finish my live FB episode with you guys. However, this time, for the first time, I really did make sure that I eat before I start, and it is something that I would like to do consistently for the next years. Why? This is because I already started incorporating circadian low carb fasting in my day to day. And I will tell you in a short while why I did this and why I think you should do it too. So before we start, I would like to say hi for more of our friends and families who are here. Ronaldin, good afternoon. Biofel, good afternoon. And Deline Sanchez, hi. What will be the topic? So our topic would be circadian fasting. But it's not just a simple circadian fasting, but it is circadian low carb fasting, because circadian rhythm will actually be related to sunrise and sundown. This is because our body has its own body clock, and it is usually dependent on the daytime and nighttime activities. So over the last 2 million years, as we evolved as hunters and gatherers and as cavemen before, we were actually somewhat synchronized with the daytime, natural daytime. So 12 hours of daytime and 12 hours of nighttime. And if you will search on the topic of circadian fasting in the internet, it will tell you that circadian fasting will be limiting your food intake during the day. So early morning you can eat and you can close it before sundown. It is actually the concept behind the diet that was made popular before. I think in the 90s, it's called before six, but it's weird that it's called before six or after six, whatever, something with 6 o'clock, because it actually pertains to sundown. So before, I used to hear that, and people are saying that it is something beneficial because eating before 6 p.m. can benefit you. Well, it doesn't have any explanation, but now we know that it is actually trying to coincide with our internal body clock. So our internal body clock has its own body clock that is somewhat became synchronized over the last 2 million years, that us humans evolved walking and roaming around the earth for as long as we have lived. So as Homo sapiens, and as human walking mammals, we became the humans that we are today. So with that, we there is considerable evidence showing that it is beneficial for our health wise, sleeping and fasting according to our natural body clock can actually improve our metabolism, our fat storage, our steroid and stress hormones in the body, even our satiety or our degree of fullness, and even hunger during the day. Because all of those, especially for children, the growth hormone also is very much impacted with the right amount and the right time of when we sleep and when we eat. Good afternoon, Agnes. Thank you so much for tuning in. So, yes, our topic for today is about circadian fasting, how we can benefit from this, and how what I will tell you is different from the ones that you will read in the internet, and why actually this one makes a lot of sense. So, Loridec sa Pungay Ribaya, hi Doc, good afternoon. Good afternoon din also to you. So to start, I think most of our friends here are already here. Thank you so much. And we can start our topic. So circadian low carb fasting is different from your regular typical low carb fasting because low carb is simply our meal choices, which is devoid of sugars, devoid of carbohydrates, even devoid of certain starchy foods, which we thought are very much healthy, like, for example, mung bean or munggo in the Philippines, or even peanuts. And I know peanuts are somewhat healthy, but these foods are actually very starchy, including pumpkin, squash, and what else? Beans, certain beans, lentils like chickpea, also even carrots and certain root crops that we thought are very, very healthy, but actually they are under our caution list. So we have a list of food. I think I posted it. If you haven't seen it, you can check my page. So these ones are the safe list, the ones that you can eat all you want. The next ones would be the caution list, and the last one would be the danger list. So our starchy foods actually belong to the caution list. Why? Because we can easily overeat them, and when we overeat them, they can increase or spike our insulin, and we already know that with insulin spike you can already have effects of fat storage, undesirable underutility or underutilization of fats in our system, which can cause for it to build up. And at the same time, as one of my cancer patients who just consulted this afternoon, insulin can also be tumorigenic. It can induce regeneration. It can induce tumorigenesis simply because it is a building block hormone. It is like a growth hormone that is not designed for mature adults to have prolonged exposure to an elevated level of insulin. Insulin is only good for growing children because their organs are not yet mature. They still need to grow some bones. They still need to improve their eyesight. Their brain are still developing. But once you are already a mature adult, your need for insulin is actually very low. Just the basal metabolic level of insulin is just enough, maybe coming from some degree of proteins that we eat, and very much a little impact, very, very much impact from good fats that we should eat. So low carb way of eating or low carb nutrition is something that we would like to be our baseline. So whether you will go into a circadian fasting, or you would like to just go the regular intermittent fasting, the ones that you can design on your own schedule, or you would like to incorporate extended fasting, but low carb eating is actually more sustainable and something that is more natural. Low carb is a natural eating way of eating of humans in a majority of times of the year. So say for example, 75 to 80% of the time in a year, we are supposed to be eating low carb. And we have one season where we can actually indulge and savor the sweets, especially coming from fruits. No, if it's harvest season of the fruits that are available in your locality, the organic way, no fertilizers, no genetically modified seeds, did not grow from any artificial way of growing, but the ones that naturally grow and naturally are in their own harvest season, in their own natural climate, in their own local endemic area where they should grow. So, but majority of time, since we can't do that exactly, so it is better to always stay safe by staying low carb. And comes fasting. We understand, I think a lot of our listeners and a lot of our viewers right now are already familiar, if not already practicing intermittent fasting. If I may ask, are you already in intermittent fasting lifestyle? If so, how long is your usual intermittent fasting routine? Is it a 16 hours, 18 hours, 14 hours even? It can also be 20 hours. And as for me, I just broke my 22-hour fast from yesterday, because yesterday my last meal intake was around 7 in the evening. I know that's already quite late for circadian fasting, but it was a special occasion. I was with my family, and it is something that we consider as dinner as a special occasion. Otherwise, the routine that we are trying to live up to now is the circadian fasting, which is eating before closing your window just before sundown. And why is that? We will tackle that more. But before we move on, I would like to say hi to Cheryl Rodan, Catherine Ann Dalangin Juare, Connie Anthony Fabullar. Good afternoon. I'm glad you're able to come in just right in time. Margarita Reyes Galora Siringan. Bambino Guerrero, hello sir. Thank you so much for tuning in. Such a cute baby you have in your profile picture. Juliet Giritan Mendoza, hello, and of course, my dearest Annabelle Vicky Duhan and Sir Ronnie, of course, always there supporting us. So, comes with circadian fasting. Why do we need to do this? Why do we need to improve on this? Because actually, circadian rhythm or our internal body clock, it's not simply just about sleeping patterns. Simply not just about waking patterns. That is when it is already daytime, we are awake and alert. And during comes nighttime, we are also at our most restful, most relaxed phase. But more than that, it also has an impact with our hormones in the body. For example, lipolytic activity or lipolysis or fat burning activity is actually very, very much elevated during nighttime. So comes nighttime, there is an increase in lipolytic activity. And your leptin hormones, or the satisfaction hormones or the satiety hormones, is also going to be elevated during the uh, wee hours of the night, usually after around 4 in the morning at dawn. You are already increasing your leptin hormones, because without leptin hormones, or if you do not have sensitivity in your leptin hormones, you are actually risking yourselves from overeating, simply because even if you are already full, even if you have taken enough food, you will still feel like you are not satisfied, simply because your leptin is on an error mode. It's not secreting the right way. Also, in contrary to that, there's also what we call as ghrelin hormone. Ghrelin hormone is the hunger hormone. So they say that, if according to studies, if you have not slept well, if you are not sleeping and resting according to your internal body clock, to your natural circadian rhythm, you are risking yourselves into over secretion of ghrelin hormone and under secretion of leptin hormone. So what will happen if that will happen? You will be, even if you will be in so much hunger, more than what you need. You will have an insatiable hunger, meaning that you will feel very, very hungry. And even if you are already eating so much, you will never feel satisfied, you will never feel full, because your leptin hormone is either decreased, or your cells sensitivity to leptin hormone is also decreased rather. This is also the reason why a lot of people who are overweight, especially those who are already on obese side, they are always hungry. And it's so sad And it's so sad that what you can see is those people that are actually looking like they are already very full are the ones that are always hungry. And it's not their fault. It's not their fault that they're hungry. It's not that they are having they are psychologically wrong with them. No, but it's actually leptin insensitivity. Leptin insensitivity is when one person is eating already too much, but the satisfaction, the fullness is still not there. And comes with leptin hormone. Routine eating, frequent eating can also increase ghrelin hormone. And with ghrelin, it's like growling. So your stomach will always be growling, thinking that it is always very, very hungry. So I hope that is clear. So those are just one of the few hormones that are very much affected with our circadian rhythm. Joe Laksama, good evening, watching from Cavite. And of course, Sir Romel Reyes, thank you so much for tuning in. Yes, I'm so glad we are still somewhat on our introduction on this topic today, which is circadian low carb fasting. So, what do I incorporate with circadian low carb fasting? This is actually what I give to my patients, especially if they are having trouble sleeping, they're having they're having trouble losing weight, even if they have the right IF schedule, even if they are fasting for 20 hours, 18 hours in a day, yet they have a hard time losing that last 5 pounds, that last 10 pounds. And also their energy during the day, they feel like sometimes sluggish, their brain sometimes not that working well, their appetite is too much. So even if they are eating OMAD or one meal a day, which is normally or frequently more popularly becoming an appetite corrector, once you go OMAD for 2 months, mostly people get appetite corrected, meaning they no longer overeat. But there are some that still overeat, that even if they're eating just for 1 hour, they are still able to eat more than what they need, and so their weight loss is unstalled, or sometimes their metabolism, and sometimes they still have manifestations of actually is their sleeping patterns and where they put their eating window. Once or twice, yes. I've been to Bohol twice, and it was a very, very good experience. And I wish to come back again and maybe do my planned week long at least of fasting plus meditation, wherein I would like to go on a dry and minimal water fasting plus meditation to as part of my annual routine. So I skipped that last year because of COVID, and I hope to do that this year. So as we move on, try to think what is your fasting schedule. So before starting this year, I said I will go into a minimum of 18-hour fasting in a day. So sometimes I prolong that, so more often than not I can fast at least 19 to 23 hours in a day. And sometimes I just eat whenever there's already enough time, if all of my responsibilities are done, the clinics are done, all my live Facebook episodes are done. But we are now considering actually going into shortening our fasting window, or at least moving it up, adjusting it into a circadian fasting. Why? Because it will give us ample time for our body to digest and synchronize it with how our body clock is supposed to process. So, because by nature, if we can recall, 2 million years ago, as hunters and gatherers, we are actually used to eating during just daytime. But it is different. I would like to put an emphasis to it. I am not promoting eating breakfast as early as 9 or even earlier than 12 noon. Of course, it may have an exemption, especially for those who are still starting. Yes, it's okay. That's why for beginners, we either say you do fasting or you do low carb, at least one at a time. But if you can do both, that's a better and way better, way healthier option. But for those who are already experienced fasters, who are already doing a 16 or 18, 20, 22 hours of fasting daily, I suggest that you do it after 12 noon. So your first meal should be after 12 noon. Why is that? So we always go back to our evolution. So as you know, I wrote a book. The first one would be Perfect at Last Weight. That is attaining an ideal body weight. It is an evolutionary perspectives guide in attaining an ideal body weight the fastest, most natural way. So emphasis here on the evolutionary perspective. Why do we take care of our evolution? Why do we consider our evolution as something that is important? Because our evolution is the one that shaped our genes, our DNA, becoming making us the humans that we are today. Modern day humans, we have all of these brains, all of this capacity to learn, but our DNA, the way we process our foods, the way we process our energy, the way we respond, our instinct, our nature is actually very much that of a caveman, that of a hunter and gatherer. So we have not adapted well to modernization in such a way that if do we do not live our lives day to day consciously, we may be trapped with also having those modern day illnesses, this modern day lifestyle diseases that was actually brought about by modern day lifestyle. Poor food choices is the number one. Second would be the mobility and at the same time presence of exercise or physical activity, and lastly our sleep, because right now, before, we are just living according to what's where we are present at that right time, but right now we have works that caters those who are needing our work, our specialization on the other side of the globe. So we have night shift in workplace so that we can cater those on the other side of the world, which has a different body clock, which is a different timeline, even almost opposite even for some. So that is causing the unnecessary build up of malfunctions in our body simply because we are not living the way our body is supposed to live. So if we can go back to 2 million years, we can travel mentally to 2 million years ago, how our ancestors did it before. So the more the we can, of course, we can just presume based on what we know of how they live their lives, given that modernization, industrial revolution, all of these, even civilization, only occurred the last 10,000 years. But before that, we are simply hunters and gatherers. We are tribal people who lived in, even nomadic people who lived from places to places wherever there is food. So there's no agriculture yet. We don't raise our own food. We don't grow our own food. So we go to where the food is. So we are nomadic people who are so used, and so our body is designed to actually on mobile, always walking, and that is something that we no longer do because modernization, technology, intelligence made us make cars, make transportations, even made escalators so that we don't no longer need to climb the regular stairs. Now we just stand there and they'll put up to the second floor, third floor, or fourth floor. So is it the Heal docu film? Heal docu film is something that I recommend. Heal is a really good film, especially if you want to go into a healing journey. So it's really good. Dr. Gay Kadarna. Hi, Doc. For watching from Oroqueta, Misamis Occidental. I have my good friend there, I think it's Dr. Maris Machacon. So she's my really, really good friend from med school. Lizelle Macmags, learning a lot from you. Thank you so much. You are very much welcome. Good evening to each and everyone. So we can travel back in 2 million years. So if you can remember, we talk about it a lot, but for those who are first time listeners, you can try to imagine The morning the caveman or hunter and gatherer wakes up, even if it's early in the morning, they don't immediately go outside and hunt or look for food. They will wait for the sun to come out. When the sun is coming out, that's the time that they will start looking for food. For the longest time, food storage and food preservation is not available. So that is the reason why we are not actually used to eating breakfast. Okay, so the females are gatherers, so they can look for foods that are nearby, so they can check for root crops, for certain plant materials, for certain grass that can be possibly edible, so they will go around and scrutinize. That is also the reason why females are actually very very good in scrutinizing minor things, no? Because by nature women are designed to scrutinize between poisonous, non-poisonous food, so they have to be very very particular with details. So there is a reason why female are very good in watching details, while males are usually the hunters, and the hunters are always looking for the big things, the gist, the focus, the main event. So that's why males actually they don't focus much on the details. My brothers, before, I used to ask them if I put on a makeup or without makeup, and they will tell me nothing is different, there's no difference, because they cannot tell. But females, even if you will tell them this person is not wearing a makeup, but they can really tell, no, she put in a light powder, a light eyebrow, a light whatever. So females are actually that. One another example is when a female and a male goes to a mall, goes to a certain store, the female will go one by one, each store and another store. It will go on dissecting each one and make sure she gets to the right destination, considering all the other options. But for a man to go to a department store or to a mall, he will go straight directly to where he will buy that shoes, he will buy whatever he needs, and then just go out. So even our brain, what we call as convolution, so it's the gyri or the twist and turns in the brains. Females has twists and turns that are more finer and more curved as compared to males. Males curves in their brains are really big. So you can see how their brain functions is going straight away. So that is how evolution shaped us over time. So going back to our normal day to day 2 million years ago. So it will take some time for the females to gather whatever they can gather. So usually it's just minor nuts and seeds that you can see around, and more often than not, it is not that abundant. So they might need to go walk for miles and kilometers away in order for them to come back. And for the males, they might go for days, sometimes 1, 2, or 3 days before they can successfully go for a hunt. And they will not be hunting for three boars or three or five kinds of animals. The moment that they can hunt one, they will just go home so that they can eat it and share it with their tribe. Okay? So, with that, you can imagine on a good day, even if on a very, very lucky day, they can possibly come back and have the successful hunt maybe as early as 12 noon. And 12 noon after, so that's just about 4 or 5 hours of looking for food, hunting for food. And of course they need to prepare it, so they have to slaughter it, they have to maybe roast it or whatever preparation that they will need. So maybe the safest, the earliest, if they're hard workers and fast workers, they can probably prepare those foods at about around 2 in the afternoon or 3 in the afternoon. And after that, they will feast on it. They will feast on it until they're already full. And remember, during those times, there's no bread yet. There's no rice. There's no, usually, if we are looking into the general times, no, there is no fruit even, because fruits are just present during harvest season, and it's usually one season a year. So they will feast on that, and you can really not prolong eating. You will get satisfied, you will get full after only eating for maybe 30 minutes to an hour straight. And after that they will rest, and if they still have food, they can go there bonding, since they have nothing much to do, there's not much work really. They're all just living to survive. So the earliest, or the latest, even the latest that they can actually stop eating and resting is before sundown, because after comes sundown, it will no longer be that safe for them to be staying outside of their safe places. So it can be a cave, it can be at the top of the tree, or it can be wherever shelter that they have. So they will usually seek shelter, they will seek security on a certain place, until they will stay there until it becomes sun morning again. And that is why circadian rhythm became the normal part of our internal body clock. So, internal body clock is something that is already dictated by our genes. It's already incorporated in how our body works, the hormonal secretions, the metabolic balance, the homeostasis, and the balance that we have in our body. But internal body clock, can be overridden by external or peripheral clock. So what is the peripheral clock? So these are peripheral cues, or outside cues, that can alter our internal body clock if it's not coinciding. So what are those? Physical activity, too much exercise. Sometimes exercise is good as long as it's done on the right time, on the right timing, which is supposedly we should be very active during daytime, because we are mimicking the times that our hunters and gatherers ancestors are at work. Also, food timing. So, food can dictate or can disrupt our natural body clock. If we are eating foods that are already beyond the usual timing of our internal body clock. Say, for example, eating late at the wee hours of the night, you are actually disrupting our internal body clock. So it is better to eat foods during the time where we are actually used to eating food. So as for me, it's normal, or it's doable for me to eat my food around late in the afternoon. So around 4 in the afternoon up to 6 in the afternoon, that's just about right. Before, I extended to 6, 7, 8, even 9 in the evening. But something tells me, even if even if I'm already in the maintenance phase, but something is telling me that I'm not at the top of my health yet. So, incorporation of circadian fasting actually is something that can hopefully do the trick, because it will correct the hormonal imbalance, the circadian secretions of our brain that is disrupted by these external cues. So these external or peripheral cues, majority of which is our food timing and also food composition. So it's good that if we are to eat, we are already correcting our food composition. So our food composition would be low carb. We covered that already during the first part. And of course, the second part would be the food timing. So right now, we are advocating food timing that is before our sundown, or before nighttime. So I know my friend Chloe will be watching this late while cooking dinner. So I know it is already not beyond your possible circadian rhythm schedule. Don't worry, it's okay. We can always restart. You can always reschedule. For us also, it took us few days before we finally arrived at the right low carb circadian fasting schedule. So first, we there was a time that we had our dinner 10 in the evening, and then we slowly move it to 9 to 8 to 7. And right now, I'm happy that I was finally able to close my window just before I started this Facebook Live episode with you guys. So it was 5:30 in the evening, 5:30 in the afternoon. So by tomorrow, since I do a minimum of 18 hours fasting, I can already eat by 11:30 in the morning. I can already eat as early as that. But since I'm not used to eating that, I think I will just be fasting longer, and I will just eat about the same time, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. But I'm going to have clinic by 5 o'clock. I will finish my clinic at 5 o'clock. So I will have a window of 5 to 6 in the evening of eating. Or maybe if there's no patient, maybe I can just go out and get a meal that is still low carb, and at the same time something filling, something nutritious. And if I don't get to eat those nutrient dense foods, I can just add my supplements. So I usually take magnesium supplement and of course salt. So with me here, I have salt shaker here. So I have a salt and pepper shaker, but this one is a salt shaker. I always have them ready because salt is very much essential, and as well as magnesium rather, because magnesium used to be very much abundant in our water, but with purification process, with all the processes that our water go through, all the minerals, the healthy minerals that we need are already devoid. So Joe Obial from Iligan City. Hello. Rosaline Rigor Garcia. Thank you so much. Mark Menchas. Of course, sir. Thank you so much. We've known each other for quite a while already. Thank you so much. I hope you are learning also from our episode. So, with circadian fasting, melatonin starts to increase by 9 in the evening. So, if you want to normalize your hormone, we can actually start mimicking how we used to do it. So, comes 9 o'clock, if you want to correct it, we can already start at putting all of our lights off. We can be in our bed, we can be in our home, but the exposure, especially to blue lights, the ones in our gadgets, it should be turned off. And especially even our bedroom light, we can already turn that off comes 9 o'clock, so that our melatonin will somewhat increase its secretion. Because if there's none, the degree of melatonin in our bloodstream will be lower as well. And melatonin is simply not just a sleeping hormone. We used to think that it's just a sleeping hormone, but recent study shows it actually is a repair hormone. So the effect of being sleepy, the effect of shutting our brain down, it's actually its way for us to shut down our system so that the rest of our body can focus on healing and repair. So if we do not have much melatonin in our system, we are actually not just risking lowering our rest period, but we are risking poor repair in our body. So it is very important. And it's okay if we've been so used to a certain lifestyle where our melatonin is already disrupted. To help you start with that, you can even take melatonin as a food supplement. You can buy it over the counter. You can start with a very low, safe dose of 3 milligrams of melatonin at night. Take it around 9 in the evening, because that is when our body naturally is is starting to get to fall asleep, to get sleepy, and as much as possible we can be sleeping already by 10 in the evening until 2 p.m. I know that sounds really early, especially for me. If you know me, you know I can stay up very late, but right now I'm trying to sleep around at least 11 in the evening. But ideally, I'd really love to try to sleep around 10 in the evening. 10 to 2 a.m. is the most optimal, highest peak of growth hormone in the body. The natural growth hormone is something that we need in order for us to repair all the necessary repairs that we need in our day-to-day life. Okay, so even for, especially for children, for those children who are staying up late, don't blame them, but blame yourselves, because children will just follow the routine of the adults. Okay? So if you want your children to grow normally, to maximize their growth potential, to reach the highest possible height that their genetics will allow them, they must have their sleep, especially during 10 in the evening until 2 a.m. in the morning. And of course, even after that. So that is how our circadian rhythm works, and it's something that we can all maximize. What else can we get from our circadian rhythm? We can actually get a lot, like for example the energy balance. We can maximize that. Energy is starting to increase in the morning, but muscular activity, cardiovascular strength is actually very much elevated, or at its peak comes nighttime. So after this, I will send you a photo of a summary of circadian rhythm and how we can maximize them. And another thing, it is also important with our metabolic regulation. So if we are not living, if we are not eating, if we are not sleeping according to our circadian rhythm, our metabolic regulation can go awry, can be disarray. and it can lead to many metabolic illness. So what is the most common metabolic illness? Abnormal glucose secretion, that is in addition to increased elevated blood glucose, increased glucose intake from the food that we eat. We can abnormally secrete more glucose than what we need, and that is a part of our circadian synchronization when it comes to our metabolic homeostasis. So how about the effect of dietary intake? So dietary intake, as much as possible, we are not used to eating carbohydrates all year round. That is the reason why whenever we take carbohydrates, we feel very, very sleepy. Because by nature, that it only happens once a year, one season per year, and supposedly that is the time where we can rest, we can uh, focus on building up more fats, storing hormones, storing the extra food that we eat, so that we can save it during the rainy days, during the winter season, during the time that we should be fasting. So it is important that from day to day we can incorporate fasting. But this time we try to imagine fasting on a day-to-day basis as if our hunters and gatherers ancestors are still looking for food. So right now, as personally, I do at least a once a week, 36 to 42 hours fasting, 1 to 2 times a week, and daily 20 to 22 hours fasting. So that's my normal routine. And so far, it's been serving me well. I've just had the longest sleep I've had last night, and I hope to be able to normalize my sleeping pattern according to the natural circadian rhythm, not just for me, but for everyone as well, for the humans, natural human circadian rhythm. And I know it may not be applicable for those who have night shift works, but there's still a way to do that. You just, if as much as possible, if you can request from your work to make it as consistent as possible, if you have your work at night, at least make it as permanent as possible if you can, or at least make it long term, so that you won't keep on adjusting your body clock. You can adjust. If it's nighttime, you can reverse that. You can remote that, so that by the time you wake up in the by the time you go home in the morning to rest, you can just shut off all the doors and windows and turn off the lights, turn off the gadgets, so that your body can feel like it is nighttime, and you can just regulate it. Just like what happens when you travel to the ones that are in the opposite time zone. So there is what we call as jet lag, wherein you feel groggy, you feel like you are not yet in tune with the timeline that you are there. For, say, for example, from here you travel to America, you travel to Europe, so all of those. So you can adjust. You just try to make sure. And if you can't really sleep at in the morning, you can't have a well rested sleep. Sometimes we sleep but we don't feel well rested. It's because our melatonin is not working well. So sleeping and resting with repair is different. That's why taking melatonin for supplements is okay. It is not just any other sleeping pills. Other sleeping pills can just have an effect of you feeling sleepy, you feeling groggy, you feeling tired. But melatonin is different because melatonin will give you the repair that you need. It can initiate the repair that you need in your body. So I'm so glad that my dearest Chloe is already here. Thank you so much. But we are almost done with our time, but we still have a few minutes left. I hope you are learning as of this time, and you can tell me what's your sleeping schedule, what's your current eating schedule, and how we can possibly improve that. So as for me, I already closed my window around 5:30 this afternoon prior to starting this Facebook Live episode. And comes tomorrow, it's going to be a very busy morning and afternoon, and I hope I can just eat it. So our dictum right now with my mom, if ever we cannot eat, because for example we are very very busy during the day, during the whole afternoon, that we only get to have a time, but it's already after sundown. We decided that we will just fast on it, and we can just eat as early as we want the next day, because it is better to just fast overnight than to eat even a little at that nighttime when it's already passed beyond the natural circadian rhythm, circadian fasting schedule, or else we will still go in that vicious cycle of irregular eating, irregular sleeping, and importantly, the most inconspicuous, the most that's not obvious effect is the irregular hormone secretions in our body coming from our brain, coming from our organs, and it can affect us as many as possible. Richel Pagaduan is asking if Centrum as food supplement for LCIF is okay. Yes, any multiple vitamins is okay as long as you take them during your eating window. So don't take them during fasting window because otherwise most of them can break your fast. If you need to take some supplements during your fasting window, we should limit it to electrolytes. So electrolytes, the most common one that we need are salt or sodium chloride and also magnesium, and sometimes very seldom we need potassium. Okay? So Sharon Roldan, learning a lot. Thank you so much. 20 hours fast, maintain. Okay. So how about your eating window? Is what time do you close it? Do you close it before sundown or after sundown? So because I've been doing that as well, 18 to 23 hours of fasting on a day-to-day basis, but I wasn't used to be very strict as to what time. So that's why mostly I overextend my fasting window, but it is at the expense of eating late at night. So far I did that for about 3 weeks, and so far it wasn't doing me any benefit. I didn't feel any better with it. So this time I would like to sitting we will be doing circadian fasting because so far of all the fasting schedules, this one makes sense the most when it comes to our evolutionary perspectives in terms of intermittent fasting. So we are still doing intermittent fasting, but with the guidance of circadian fasting because our last meal intake should be before sundown, or at least should be around before 6 in the evening. That is the usual resting. Of course, we are not very strict about it, but as early as possible. Sometimes you can go as late as 7 in the evening, but you just have to make sure that the more usual, the rule rather than the exemption is you eating before sundown. I hope that is clear. So cooking as fast as I can so I can close the window before 9 p.m. and we'll sleep around 12 a.m. Thank you. Okay, you do that. 9 p.m. You are 2 hours advanced. I forgot. So yes, you can do that. And of course, we can always do meal preps, especially for hardworking ones like Chloe who is very much hardworking and usually stays late or goes home late. So we can actually do our meal prep. So we have our groups, Life Without Rice, for your meal inspirations. We can actually prepare. We used to prepare food enough for 1 week and we just reheat it or slightly process it whenever we need it. So what we usually do whenever we do our groceries, say for example, we buy 3 kilos of pork, 3 kilos of chicken, another kilo of beef. We actually cook that right after we go home. So we put a little vinegar and salt to preserve it, some spices, and we separate the soup and the broth, I mean, and the meat, and we put it in the refrigerator so that anytime we are hungry, we can just put it in the chiller side, not on the freezer side, and then we can easily thaw it and we can easily cook it. We can put soy sauce and vinegar for adobo. We can put soup or some tamarind if you want sinigang. Anyway, we can put all the other spices and make it tinola. So all of those. So it's very flexible. So meal preparations can be an art as well. And I know you can do so much. So, Richel, thank you very much. Sharon, today past 5 p.m. done with OMAD. Wow, that's good. Tomorrow's a life app, 20-hour fast till 2:11 p.m. That's good. That's really, really good. So, yes, that's a good schedule. For me, I think I posted it before. I told you before that I'm just doing, that's why when I post, it's always my goal is just 18 hours so that to make sure that the insulin effect is no longer there because insulin, even if we are eating proteins, it will still have an insulin effect, although low and not dangerous. But I would like to make sure that there is at least an hour or two in my day that I have very, very low or almost just basal insulin level. So I always set my schedule on my clock with a fasting target of a minimum of 18 hours. But after that, I can extend it to as long as I want, but with a limit, of course, of right now with adaptation of circadian fasting, that is eating not beyond sundown. So what's the ideal eating window time? Why shorter is better? Shorter is better depending on your goal. So shorter is better. It's because for those who want to optimize health, if you're those who want to heal, you can actually heal more if your fasting window is open. So, and it has something to do with autophagy. So, autophagy is the self-eating mechanism of our body. Whenever you are hungry, you are giving your body an opportunity to eat those extra proteins, extra carbohydrates, extra fats that's been in your system that is already redundant. Those extra proteins, those extra misfolded proteins are the ones causing blockade in our brain that causes brain fog, even the fog in our eyesight that cause build up in our lens that cause blurring of eyesight, and so many others that can cause inflammation and malfunction in our organs. So why the shorter the better? OMAD, 1 meal a day, is actually very much sustainable. We are so used in eating 3 meals a day with extras, but actually, OMAD, eating one whole meal a day or two light meals in a day, is actually more natural than intermittent dispersed 3, 4, 5 meals in a day. Okay. So if you want to know more, Emma, it's been detailed in my books, Perfect Last Weight, and these are Amazon copies. So these are quite big. And second book is Perfect at Last Health to Heal. So the science behind is there. Okay. So Cat and Almarina's 12 noon to 6 p.m. in window. That's good every day, but still with little rice carbs on one meal. Sleeping at 12 midnight. Is that a good start? Yes, that is very much a good start. But you can improve it with incorporation of sleep hygiene routine. So sleep hygiene routine is the routine that we use so that we get our body get used to this routine that we do. It's like a ritual that we do so that whenever you are in that mindset, your body is starting to feel relaxed, your body is starting to increase the melatonin, and it's starting to already set its mood into dreamland. Okay, so you can start by shutting off your lights and blue light exposure an hour before your intended sleep time. So if you intend to sleep at 12 midnight, so that's okay if that will work for you. So you plan on shutting off all the windows, all the lights, all the gadgets, turn it off at least an hour or two before. So, but if you want to sleep earlier, like 11, so you can start your sleep hygiene by 10 in the evening or 9 in the evening. Another tip also is your water intake, limiting it to at least 2 hours before bedtime, and comes last gulp of your meal water intake. For example, you want to sleep at 10 in the evening, last water intake should be around 8 in the evening. And just before you really set off and go to sleep, you go to the toilet and try to pee, even if you don't feel like peeing, so that after that, your sleep will be continuous and your relaxation will not be disrupted until the next day. So, Sir Ronnie, way back then, around mid 90s, I already heard the after six, no food intake and no rice and low carbs from a dear friend. Wow, this is really good. Yes, I know. After six schedule has really been popular then, no? 80s, 90s, I think it was very, very popular. But I think as a person, I really don't take things as they come unless you will have a very good science or at least common sense to back it up. So this circadian fasting is actually just like after six on a different package. But this time, it will make sense knowing that it is so natural and it is something that can synchronize our body with our own internal body clock, because this is what our body is built for the last 2 million years that it evolved as the humans that we are now. So, Annabelle? Mine start 3 p.m. every day for 4 months already, 20 hours IF. That's good. And I saw your progress, and you are so, so, so beautiful right now, especially with your profile picture. So thank you so much. The moment I lie down in bed, I snooze right away. It pays off when you're tired during the day. That's also really, really good. So lucky are those who can sleep right away. So no problem with that. And you are also one of the lucky ones. So keep it up, whatever you are doing. And I think our time is already up. It's already 6:30 in the evening, and we just ended. We are just about to end our episode of WhatsApp Doc here in Global TV Network, also in Kuno Good TV. This is a sister company, I think, of Global TV Network. So I would like to say thank you to Sir Norwin. And if you can also like and follow their page as support because they've been supporting us. And for those of you who have family members who are not yet part of our Life Without Rice and Low Carb Feasting and Fasting community, please invite them and share them this video so that they too can start this way of life that is not just anything but natural, healing, and also economical, diba? You will no longer need to think to buy foods 3 times a day. Just one meal a day is already enough. 2 meals a day is already feels like a feast or celebration for me. So that ends our midweek FB Live episode. This is your Diet Doctora, Dr. Josephine Grace Chuaraha. Always remember to stay low carb so that we will all stay safe. Goodbye. Thank you so much.